Happy Monday. Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Hope you guys had a great Easter. Appreciate all of you guys that joined us on the show yesterday. We've got some great news. Potentially a 5-star commitment is coming very shortly. Broke it first on BuckeyeScoop.com. And there's some big time portal action. Ohio State is sharpening up the offers for some really good players up front on the defensive line, which I know everybody in the world is worried about. So I think that we're going to have some really good intel. We're going to take your questions, as always, on the Super Chats, which you can go to Pay It Forward. So, as always, we appreciate you guys being with us each and every night. If you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate everything that you guys do, being a part of the show every night. The community is incredible. The chat is incredible. Those of you that are members of BuckeyeScoop.com has been very active on there today, so make sure you guys just jump on and join BuckeyeScoop.com as well for the complete Ohio State football experience. A lot of intel is coming our way, and it's actually really good to get on that board and read some of it. So with that being said, got to bring in my boy Nevada. A lot of times when we're doing these shows, it's very fluid, and sometimes we don't know until maybe an hour or two before what we are going to be speaking on. But this is some really good intel that we got on PJ Dean, aka Pierre Dean. Really good player. He's from Clemens, North Carolina. Very athletic kid. We got his tape. We're going to break down in a second. What are you and some of our compadres on BuckeyeScoop.com hearing about PJ Dean?
Well, that he's going to commit to Ohio State. And you're talking about a guy that he's rated, I think, the number 47 player in the country, interior offensive lineman, defensive lineman. I think Ohio State's recruiting him to play on the defensive line, but certainly he could play on either side of the ball. It looks like he's going to be a commitment and joining Larry Johnson and Ohio State as part of the 2026 class. So would be a huge get for Ohio State if it happens. With recruiting, we never say anything's locked in something. You never know, but all indications are that this is happening and should be happening quite shortly. So excited about that. I know that it seems like we're spoiled a little bit with our wide receiver talent. With you get another 5-star quarterback, we're like, oh, I'm just another 5-star quarterback. But the linemen seem to be the apple of the eye of most of the people in the fan base, and you can never have enough of the bigs. And my partner here is one of the bigs, so it's one of your fellow bigs. But he's just a big on the defensive side, and but a guy that now you played both sides of the ball, didn't you, Kirk? In high school, you played defensive line and offensive line, or you were tight end.
Yeah. But in general, I feel like in Ohio, unless you're at like some humongous program, like most good linemen play both ways. That's just how it is because you don't have enough bodies, and it's if Travis Hunter can play both ways at the college level where the game is longer and harder and more physical, then more kids can play both ways. I think that's kind of a lost art, but if you're a high school coach and you've got like my senior year, me and Zach Slates were both Division I guys, like we're both going to play both ways. We kind of played like 1.5 ways where I'd always play on offense and I'd play half the drives on defense, and then he would play the other half of the drive. So we'd rotate it defensive tackle. So we did get like some rest. But if they needed to put us both in, they could, but it's like, the bigger guys, you try to give them a little bit of rest because, the little guys can play both ways easily, but getting that every other series off was helpful, especially when the season's long. But yeah, like I think that every good lineman should play both ways, but you can continue. Are you there?
Yeah. Well, this is a kid that's not only playing both ways, but excelling playing both ways. And that's to do, as you're well aware, that's really, really hard to do. And it's what a special athlete this kid is, multi-sport star, plays on both sides of the ball, super active, super athletic. The guys that I've talked to, like the first time they saw him, they couldn't believe how nimble. He's one of those guys, those fast movers on the defensive line that when you see it, you know what you're seeing. You're seeing something really, really special. And guys that big shouldn't be moving that fast, but he's one of those guys. And Ohio State's excited about this. Is a good one. Anytime you're getting a top 50 kid who's an interior offensive lineman, defensive lineman from North Carolina coming to Ohio State, it's cause for big time celebration. So Ohio State's pretty excited about this one.
Yeah, I think that when you get kids like this, you gotta you got to project he's going to end up as an offensive lineman. If it's close, I always think that the kid should go play offense, because you can be like a super athletic offensive lineman, or just like an average to above average. But when you're a kid who's built like this, and I'll toss this film on real quick, he's probably going to end up playing offensive line, which I think is, for, when you're trying to guide these people to the NFL and what's the right way to go. It's like Billy Price. Like, Billy Price was a defensive lineman for like one day, but on our recruiting board, he was never on the defensive line board. He was always on the offensive line board. He was always on the, we were taking him, and he was, he was never under Mike Vrabel's tree. He was under Ed Warner's tree. So I think that's how this kid is. Now, maybe, in recruiting, you talk about, hey, you can play both, and you can, hey, we'll see if you fit better on this side or that side, whatever. But I think this kid's an offensive lineman all the way, which is good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's a lot of offensive linemen that, frankly, do incredibly well at Ohio State, into the NFL. Let me get this tape. Excuse me. I'm getting this turned on. But his film's good. I like him, and most of his film is playing offensive tackle. So again, I don't know if he's a tackle at the next level, but here he is. He's got the Nevadabuck Manhattan Beach Athletic Club Gatorade towel hanging out of his back. And that is the longest towel I've ever seen on a highlight, I think. That literally drags across the ground, which is, I guess that's swaggy for the kids. But offensive tackles that wear hand towels are always cool, I guess. But he's put these guys on the ground, and I don't know how good these kids are, but he's a big athletic kid. And here, I think this is him. This is him on defense. Yeah, this is him. This is him. So here he is edge rushing. So again, he's got kind of a different kind of body type when he's playing left tackle, but he's also an edge rusher. Usually like your bigger guys are inside playing defensive tackle, but here he is playing the edge, making a nice play there. I think here he is back at offensive tackle, going against Mark Pantoni with a tan right here, dumping him on his head. And again, like I love seeing the finishing. I have no idea how good a ball this is, but it doesn't matter. I mean, when you're watching kids in high school, you want to know, does he finish? Does he run his feet? Again, here he is massacring this poor kid. But it's good. I like that. He doesn't get to pick who he goes against. So whoever he's going against, he has to punish. And again, you see he's consistently, driving his guy down the field, putting him on the ground, running his feet, which is great. Again, this is like just amazing. This is amazing officiating, because so the line of scrimmage is like right here-ish. I mean, there's the sticks, and he's literally, this is the 12-yard line or so, and does he put this kid in the end zone? Yeah, this is the goal line. So he drives him 12 yards. Now, mind you, this is a pass. So he drives the guy 12 yards down the field into the end zone as the ball is getting caught in the end zone. So officiating, maybe not always great. Like, when you've got the Keystone cops out here watching this, and you just got him drive blocking this guy in this RPO. But hey, that ain't his problem. But that's one of the more amazing plays I think I've ever seen. This is a passing play, and he drives a guy 10 yards down the field and puts him on the ground while the ball is in the air. It's like he puts this guy's corpse into the end zone at the same time the ball is getting caught, which I don't think I've ever seen that before. And again, if you guys have seen a play that looks just like this, please send it to me. I'm easy to find, but that's something kind of fun. I guess like I said, when you got these officials out here, man, it's like, whew. But Nevada, have you ever seen anything like that before?
Well, I saw the movie The Blind Side, and I saw that where he took him and he put him out, and then put the kid out and stuff. But not on. I think that was a running play, though. I don't think that was supposed to be a passing play, because I think that's a penalty, right? You're not supposed to be able to drive block 15 yards down the field.
You can't be 20 yards down the field. It's like as the ball's getting thrown past your ear when you're pancaking a guy. I was like, what in the world? It's like these officials they're just trying to get to the buffet table after the game. They're trying to get to Applebee's before the happy hour is over. Here's another nice play. Again, this kid makes a lot of impact plays, man. His highlight tape's beautiful. Here he is splitting. This poor quarterback has no prayer, because when you don't block the 5-star guy, like again, this is great. This is like I would shoot this guard. If I was this tackle and they're running like a play action zone play, and this guard leaves this tackle in an impossible spot because this kid is like head up inside, and this guard doesn't even touch the guy. So this and again, this tackle's not any good either. But like this guard is running to literally to nothing. To there's nobody anywhere near that he's possibly going to touch. Does he touch anybody on the play? No, he's not a soul. Oh, it's a screen. That's what it is. It's a tunnel screen. So he runs a tunnel screen, runs this little track. He's got like Bo back out here, but it's just, again, the thing I used to hate about coaching a screen pass is kids get so paranoid about getting out. And so like, oh my God, if I don't leave immediately, then we have no chance. So it's like they don't block anybody at all. So this almost turns into a sack fumble because they're gone so quick. I mean, this is about a split second away from being a sack and the ball going this way. But, good by the kid. Again, it's probably better to block that guy. And at least that guard should at least give him a hand for a millisecond. But no, I like this kid's tape. I like that, it's bad competition, but he's dominating. That's what he should do. And again, he's big. You can tell that he's athletic. I think he's an offensive lineman all the way. But like I said, he's active. Like, I mean, he's twitchy enough where you could try him at defensive tackle, but I think he'd be a really good guard. Not, if he's 6'4"-ish, not sure how much taller he's going to be, but he's been coached. I mean, he does a good job, at tackle. And again, I don't know. Like this is going to be an interesting deal because I think he's an offensive lineman, but here, like he plays with a lot of effort. He's tough. Playing both ways isn't easy, but he does a nice job of it. I mean, he just absolutely kills this poor center right here. And does he get a safety? And a safety. I mean, now again, this is the Washington Generals are going against right here. I mean, he's going against the center here, and the center, snaps it, gets murdered. And I'm just bull rushed into oblivion, and this quarterback doesn't get rid of it, and he gets sacked for a safety, or close to a safety. I don't know if they actually called it that, but no, I love this kid's tape. I mean, he's got, again, I don't know if he's going against the JV team or what's going on, but it's real interesting watching this guy play because he's got a lot of ability. I mean, like this kid, he's explosive, and I think he does a really nice job off the ball. Again, here's another one. He's throwing, like literally, like I don't know. Like these poor kids, man. These poor guys he's going against. I mean, he throws this kid out of the end zone. So this is this kid lands on the long jump back here. So, he's having himself a time. Yeah, Nevada, this is, I mean, again, you got to consider the level of ball, but he's dominating. I mean, everything he does is it's a massacre. So I like his tape. Any thoughts on this as we're churning through this thing?
Well, I mean, it's reminiscent. I mean, not for the same line play, but it was kind of like the first time I saw Ezekiel's highlight tape. You could go back to watch that one, him playing bad St. Louis high school football, and he's like the big kid against the little kids. And look, all you could do is dominate the guys you're playing against, and play with effort, play with good pad level, play with good aggression and good technique. And he does that. And I have no doubt a guy this athletic, this nasty with Larry Johnson's, tutelage, and whether he ends up on the offensive or defensive side of the ball, I guess they'll settle that out when it comes to Ohio State. But no, I'm excited about it. This is like I said, it's not very often to get top 50 kids that are linemen coming to Ohio State. It just doesn't happen because one, there's not that many of them, and two, we've talked about recruiting being a local business, and North Carolina is not exactly Ohio State, although Ohio State's had a lot of success in North Carolina. So this would be a really good get, and fingers crossed this gets announced here shortly, and we get this guy in the barn.
Yeah, it was funny. Like back then in recruiting, like one of the big things we used to do was we would write letters to 3 kids every day. So like we'd get into our staff meeting with Urban, and Urban was a psychopath, and I love her, and I mean that lovingly. I love Urban. And we'd get to our chairs, and we'd have an envelope. We'd have 3 envelopes like already like hand addressed, and we'd have it sounds a big thing. It's like hand addressing an envelope is way different than putting the little label on them because, you know, like through Urban and Pantoni's eyes, that showed like that we cared. So they had these poor girls that were these sorority girls that worked for the recruiting. They'd be in there handwriting these these labels all day for like Ezekiel Elliott, like 30 envelopes, and then Joey Bosa 30 envelopes. But it was funny because like I'd have to write Ezekiel every week, and it'd be like, Ezekiel, great job at, you know, great win, you know, keep it going, Briar Press Prep, or wherever he went, and great job with your 275 yards and 5 touchdowns. Or I mean, because he played like, we'd watch his tape, and it was like the NFL running back versus like the altar boys, because he played in like low level, like parochial Catholic league. It was just like every game was just like he touched the ball, they'd hand him the ball, and he just run for 70 yards, and you know, it was just like, it was like Derrick Henry. Like you look at Derrick Henry's high school stats, and every game was like 450 yards, 7 carries, and you know, then they'd pull him after, you know, the mercy roll was hit. But that's what Zeke was. And we, again, I always go back to all the geniuses, all the gurus that do the rivals ratings and the 247. And this is when I knew that those guys were idiots. They all had Derek Green ahead of Ezekiel. Derek was the 5-star. And it was weird because, you know, Derek grew up an Ohio State fan. He wore 27 because of Eddie George. I think his grandpa was like a huge Ohio State fan, so he was an Ohio State fan. And we took Ezekiel. Ezekiel was better. I mean, he was, you know, you can't take all of them, but Ezekiel was the guy. And we were right, you know, and by we, it was, you know, Pantoni and Stan Drayton and Urban. And, you know, this is how you evaluate a running back. You know, does he dominate? And Derek Green played against terrible players in Virginia and didn't dominate, you know. So he'd have 30 carries for 100 yards and a touchdown, and you're like, well, versus, you know, some of these turd schools in Virginia, like that's not really cutting the mustard. Where Ezekiel, again, you can't pick who your opponents are. So Zeke would be like 15 carries, 350 yards, and 5 touchdowns. It's like these absurd stat lines where you're thinking like, man, I wish I could draft him in my fantasy football league or something. But he was a difference maker, and I think that that's part of this this deal where, you know, you got to figure out the level of competition. This kid probably won't come to camp because he's too highly regarded. But this is where you got to go get Tyler Bone to go see him. You got to go get Hartline to go look at him now that he's the coordinator. You got to go get Ryan Day to go see him. And, you know, this is that evaluation period where you want to go look at these kids. You want to see what they look like, because, you know, you look at the stats and it says that they're 6'4", 250 on 247 or Rivals or whatever. And then you go see him and he's actually 280 or he's 270 or he's 6 foot, you know, 5.5 or whatever. It's like, guys, these kids grow from their freshman, sophomore, junior years. So you got to get eyeballs on him. How does he look physically? How wide is he, which is important? Is he too narrow? So yeah, I'm excited about this kid. Again, that was a really impressive tape. I really like a lot of the stuff he's doing. I have an affinity for guys that play both ways because, you know, it just is what it is. Like, I mean, I think it shows a toughness, a mental toughness to want to play both ways, because I think most kids are soft and they only play one way now. And they think that, well, that's what they do in the NFL and in college. So in high school, I can't do it. So I think Travis Hunter is one of the greatest players of all time, just because he literally like broke the mold and actually decided to play both ways and did it at a high level. I don't think he was the Blitnikoff winner. I don't think he was better than JJ, but, you know, I mean, for a guy going both ways and probably the number 2 pick overall in the draft, like he's a special dude. Nevada, any other thoughts on this? So we can talk a little bit about more some of these portal kids that are coming in.
Well, when you were recruiting, Kirk, did you ever like put on lipstick and like put little lipstick marks on the little notes to the kids, or sprinkle your cologne on it when you sent it to them, or anything else like that?
No, I used to hate writing those stupid letters because I was like, I know these guys aren't going to read this. Well, it's like, I mean, shit, they get 500 letters a day, and I'm like, I'm sitting here writing, great job, Ezekiel, on your win versus Brian, you know, some GA from Ohio State, and it was more about the volume of handwritten letters than it was, oh my God, I got a letter from whoever. But that's just what it was. It was like, and Urban was militant about it, and at the beginning of every staff meeting, we'd take 5 minutes, we'd write 3 letters. And I mean, each letter would be like, great job versus this goal. And Pantoni was good because he'd have like the player, the school, and all of that, you know, all of that stuff already printed out. So it was pretty mindless, but it was more about the volume and, we'd set it on a given day so the kid would get 25 handwritten letters from Ohio State because every grad assistant, every coach, everyone wrote to the same guys. So it would be like this big onslaught of letters that would come in the mailbox, which again, I was fine with. I thought it was smart, and Urban and those guys knew how to recruit way better than we did before they got there. So it was always kind of eye opening to see the level of work and grind that went into recruiting when Urban showed up. Because again, to me, that's the difference. If you can pick the horses, man, you got a way better chance of winning, and we've gotten really good at doing that. Nevada, you're saying before you got cut off for a second.
Well, I just think that if you just sprinkled like some of your Hugo Boss cologne on it or something like that, and did like the little personal thing, we might have gotten Ethan Posick or something like that. Maybe that would have you could have saved
Versace,
it.
And I've got Chanel, so I actually like the Chanel better now. Yeah,
you've got Sex Panther,
yeah.
Sex
on the beach, sex nuggets with Nevadabuck.
Oh my
equal
gosh.
sign Nevadabuck clone, equal sign love making.
Kirk's like, it's time to musk up.
That's right. Time to make more kids, Kim. Let's go.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I like I said, I like this kid. I hope we get him locked in, and the portal's popping right now, Nevada. We got a couple visitors booked, and we got one on campus right now. What are some of the things you're hearing, and how excited are you about some of these kids that are in the vicinity of Ohio State right now?
Well, like I said, you've got Bo Atkinson on a visit. You've got Morad Watson, the big freshman All-American defensive tackle from Syracuse, scheduling a visit, and apparently down to two schools. Apparently down to Texas and Ohio State. Texas would be a peculiar choice because I literally think they've gotten 4 portal defensive tackles since since the transfer thing's open. So they seem like they've gotten a bunch of them. So I would like Ohio State's chances in it, but you never know. Texas is clearly going hard on the defensive line for sure. But yeah, no, I mean Ohio State seems to be focused. That they've got they're still in play for their top 2 guys, which would be Watson and Atkinson, and we'll see what they pull. So I tend to think when Ohio State focuses on a kid, focuses the NIL collective on a kid, focuses their coaching staff on it, they generally have a pretty high hit rate. And they've kind of milled through all the potential targets, and it's really kind of down to these 2, which were really the top 2 guys on their board. So it'd be nice to get both. It'd be nice definitely to get one, and it would be disappointing to get neither. So I think we'll know more. Atkinson wants to make a decision here like shortly, like early this week. So that could happen, anytime, assuming that the visit is right and that everything's right with Ohio State. Maybe we get him, and that would be very exciting news indeed. Because I literally think he would step in and be one of the better players at that position right away. And that's not denigrating the guys that we have, but he would be a big ad for Ohio State. And fingers crossed that we land him.
Well, the reason I like Bo Atkinson is the production. Like I said, he had 7.5 sacks last year. It's like, when we're worried about pressuring the quarterback, and he's a big athletic dude, and he's got the ability to play inside on passing downs. Like, he adds a lot that we don't have, in my opinion. And he's the guy that I think I'd empty the clip to get him. Because again, I like the production, and I love 2 years of eligibility left. Like, this isn't a 1-year rental. This is a kid that he's a tough kid. Again, I watched more of his film, like whole games of him, and he plays hard. Like again, this isn't just a one-trick pony. Because I feel like when you're evaluating these portal guys, there's the guys that are actually productive, like this kid is, and then there's kids that maybe were a 5-star a year or 2 ago. Like again, David Stone, who went back to Oklahoma again, God bless him, 10 tackles last year. And I think maybe 1 sack. Played garbage time on a garbage team, which that's always concerning to me when a kid is the number 6 kid in his class, and he's this, the bee's knees and the greatest, he's 5-star number 1 defensive tackle, and he can't get on the field for a bad defense. Brett Venables literally had to come, like, he took the play calling over this year because he's at death's door in that program. So I'm sure that they stepped in. I'm sure that they wrote him a check, to keep him happy or whatever. But like, I mean, if I could have him, the only reason that I would take him over um, uh, Bo is just because I think that he's got an extra year of eligibility. He's a 3-year guy instead of a 2-year guy, and he's a D tackle. And frankly, we're pretty thin after our top 2 guys. But I just like with the Texas thing. Like, again, if I'm the agent of Watson or some of these guys, I'm saying, well, look, here's the deal. They've already taken 4 defensive tackles in the portal. So what are they telling all these guys? Because what do you tell them? Playing time? Well, I mean, and they had a guy come back who they weren't expecting to come back, who got another year. So, I mean, you're like Hero Canoe, man. You show up thinking, okay, I'm either going to be a starter, I'll be the top guy off the bench, but then there's 3 guys that join you, and then they're going after more guys. It's like, do they have buyer's remorse on some of these guys? I would. I mean, if we took four guys out of the portal in one cycle at one position, and they weren't like, the Monstars from Space Jam or something, I'd be wondering, well, how much are we paying these guys? And can none of them play? Is that why we're going after more guys in the second portal window? Because again, there's only so much money to go around, and again, everyone can act like they have infinite money, but you start dumping money into these kids and then you figure out they get there for spring and they stink, then I kind of feel like that's where Texas is. If they're still going after these guys, and again, I get accumulating talent, but at some point there's, you're buying guys that aren't good enough to play. And I feel like Hero is that. Like, I mean, I'm sure Hero probably showed up and they thought, well, we took Ohio State's number 3 guy, but I'm not going to go on Hero because I don't really care, but he was always just a guy. I mean, I watched every snap from last season on the All 22, and like, I was never like, oh my God, look at Hero go. I mean, I was like that with Caden, and I was like that with with Edric, who I think is going to be a first round pick. But Hero, I was just like, I was waiting for the burst that we saw when he was in high school. And again, that's the danger of the high school camps and these stupid one-on-one pass rush drills that they do. Is that Hero Canoe looked like really good, looked like Warren Sapp, and beat the tar out of Josh Padilla the one day I was there, and people were down on Padilla, and they said, oh, he's just a average Ohio kid and a project and all that other garbage that people like to spew that don't know anything about football. And I was like, well, that's the most rigged drill of all time. And how do I know that? Because when I did that drill, going into my junior year, I never lost a single time. It's the most rigged drill. And again, that's what put me on the map with Ohio State. Is I went to camp as a defensive lineman, and I did one-on-one pass rush, and I beat the tar out of everybody I went against. Nobody could block me. It was amazing, because it's like, you get guys that their footwork isn't right, or you get them on the wrong side, and you hit a couple different moves, and they can't stop you. And we used to do straight up one-on-one, and it was a massacre every time. So again, that drill is stupid, and people think it's like the be all end all. But you get some of these guys into team settings like Josh Padilla, and he looks great. I mean, Josh had a great spring, and Josh is going to be a much better player in college than Hero Canoe will be, and that's a fact. So whenever it's Josh's turn to roll, like, I think he's going to be an anchor to the interior of our offensive line, and I'm excited for him because I think he's a tough kid, and I think you need those tough Ohio kids to kind of be the heartbeat of your team, along with your JJs and your Emecas and your skill guys that are usually from distant lands like Florida and Washington State and whatever. So, but I'm excited for this. I think this is going to be a really nice week for Ohio State. And these guys are going to get on the road for spring evaluations, because those are coming up too. These coaches, they hit May, man. They're on the road and checking out kids and popping in, and it's going to be fun to go on the road with that championship ring. That's going to be something that's going to be good for us, and I'm excited for those guys to hit it. Nevada, any other thoughts, so we could get into some super chats?
No, just a big week. I mean, like I said, Bo Atkinson, you got Watson scheduling a visit. You've got the NFL draft starting on Thursday. So, these portal kids got to decide quickly, because this portal's not open forever. It opens, it closes, and you got to do business. So Ohio State's in on their top 2. Let's keep fingers crossed to see if they can get across the goal line.
Nevada, there is a prop that was on like DraftKings that was like plus 350 for the Browns to draft both Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. If that would happen, should the Browns immediately retire both of their numbers?
Well, that's what I was just thinking. I was thinking, I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Or maybe like name the stadium after him or something like that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
maybe that puts that whole new stadium project over the top, and
Yeah.
you put it in there. But yeah, that would be amazingly bad. That'd be such a Browns thing. Like, you draft Hunter and everybody's all excited. Like, all right, we got Travis Hunter. That's great. What a great draft pick. and then you jinx it by drafting Shador, Bus, Sanders after that. So no, let him go someplace else.
I
You don't
I
want any
just can't.
part of that. That's a circus, man. You don't want any part of the
Oh God.
circus.
Well, it's like the hard part about Shador is like I don't think he's very good. And then you get like his brothers and the videographers, and I'm just like, my God, like I mean, the kid's got to prove that he can play quarterback in the league first, and like he's got to go somewhere. Like for a guy to blame the offensive line as much as that guy did, like that always irks me when, if the O line's struggling, like mix up the play calls a little bit. Don't just blame them for you sucking. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where he lands, because that's going to be kind of the question of the draft. Because I think that this is a draft where in that second round there's so much value at quarterback that I would never take a quarterback in the first round of this draft, especially with the Browns being able to pick Travis Hunter at 2. I mean, it's going to be like I think he's super legit. He's a superstar, and I think that that'll be great for Cleveland. But yeah, don't take a bad player. It was one of the Browns beat writers, and I love this, said that at 33 they're targeting your boy Jalen Milroe. Like, could you imagine your reaction to the Browns taking Jalen Milroe at 33?
I just yeah, just another stupid slow processing quarterback like that.
Oh,
That's what you need. I mean, Jim Miller couldn't play in college, so I don't know how he's going
no.
to play in the NFL. I mean, it's rare to have some guy that like is better in the NFL than they were in college, because I just thought he was really average in college, especially in the big games. And all of a sudden he's going to magically get better when they're playing against the Philadelphia Eagles or something. Yeah, that's not likely.
Well, it reminds me so much of like Anthony Richardson. Like Anthony Richardson went third overall, and I thought he was better, but like he wasn't great in college. Now he's one of the greatest I mean, he ran 4.4 or whatever and was humongous, but I don't know. It'll be an interesting. I love the draft, especially when the Browns are picking high, which is seemingly every year, because it's usually like the Browns Super Bowls, the NFL draft, because they're picking top 5 and they get to let it rip. So, all right, let's dig into some super chats. Our boy Ovi just scored a goal, so they're up 1-0. I love this time of year because hockey in the playoffs is the greatest thing of all time. All right, Dan Welch, thank you for the 5. Thanks for being an ultra member as well. I would like to know how our linebackers are doing. And with our D-line unproven, they need to step it up to help out. Nevada OH. You go first on this one. I've been talking a lot.
I mean, linebackers are doing great. I mean, having a coach like James Laurinaitis, and like I knew he'd be good. I think he's even better than I thought he was going to be, and he's a guy he's going to be a future coordinator, future head coach somewhere. He just has it. Three-time All-American or whatever it was, multi-time All-American, multi-time captain, just the rarest of rare birds at Ohio State. And yeah, no, I liked it. I mean, I liked what the development with Sonny. I thought Arvell Reese was terrific last year. I like Riley Pettijohn, Peyton Pierce. I mean, they've got guys back there that can really play, and I think that the linebacking room when he took over the position, it was, I wouldn't say it was bare, but they were having Jim Knowles coach the linebackers and be the DC. Wasn't quite sure if the linebackers were getting quite the attention that they needed. Now I think it's again I know they're recruiting really well. I like the freshmen they brought in. They've got a lot going on right now in the linebacker room, and it's all positive. So hats off to James Laurinaitis. We knew he'd be good, but as I said, I think he's even better than we thought he was going to be, and that's really saying something.
Yeah, I think James is going to be a coordinator within 2 years, and I think that he'll be a potential head coach within 5, because he's got the makeup. I mean, James is the rarest of people where he's a great person. He was an incredible player, and he is a really wicked smart coach. And he's a guy that I think he's living a perfect scenario right now where he's been around. In 3 seasons, 4 seasons, he's been around Al Golden, Jim Knowles, and now Matt Patricia. And he's only had to move once, which is great. So he's been exposed to some really sharp defensive minds. And you might not always agree with what they're doing or whatever, but I kind of had a similar situation when I worked for Tress, and then I worked for Luke for a year, then I worked for Urban. Much different styles across the board, across all three. And it was great because you could figure out different ways to do things, and you can kind of take what you like from each of them. But our linebackers are really good, and they've been really good the last couple of years. Starting with when Jim Knowles showed up, he had to fix a lot of stuff, and like Tommy Eichenberg, really, really good player. Cody Simon developed into an All-American level. That he's a guy that should have been an All-American, but we just don't promote our guys enough. And this year, Sonny Styles will be preseason All-American in every magazine. I think he's got a really good shot to make All-American if he's productive. Arvell's a freak show. Arvell just has to keep his foot down on the accelerator and do the stuff off the field that he needs to do to be great. And Peyton Pierce is, and if he doesn't want to do it, Peyton Pierce will take a spot because Peyton Pierce is coming, and he's going to be a really productive, good player. He's going to have a nice long career here. And that's kind of the thing. And then you've got some young guys. I mean, you've got some TJ Alford, and then Riley Pettijohn is going to be an absolute superstar at Ohio State. So, again, if you're dumb, then you don't send your kid to play for James Ornice. If James is like Hartline. I think he has a higher ceiling than Brian Hartline, just because I know both of them very well. But I think James is the kid that you would die for your kid to play for, because he'll give him everything he's got. And I think that he's just got tremendous upside, and I think that he'll, it was funny to me because, there was this time where there were people in the Woodhays that were wondering if he was, if he was just dipping his toe in. And there's always this stigma among coaches that came up the traditional way, where they were an intern and then a GA, and then they moved to Akron, and they, Kent State and Bowling Green, and then they're at Purdue, and then they kind of do this little step ladder approach, as opposed to the guys that, instead of starting off as a student coach when they're 19, they're in the NFL as a 22-year-old, and they play in the league for 10 years. And it's almost like it's comical to me, because I think that, as much as you work as a student coach and stuff, there's no substitution for being in the NFL, in my opinion, because you're exposed to the sharpest minds, the sharpest coaches. You're going against the best players. You're studying the best schemes, and it's your job. I mean, you do it every day. I mean, you do it. You take some time off in the off season, but you're there all summer, all winter, and you learn a tremendous amount because you're around. I mean, like James, was one of Steve Spagnuolo's favorite players ever. Spags is borderline Hall of Fame coordinator. He's won rings with the Chiefs and has done tremendous work, and that's who James was learning from in St. Louis for a long time. So I think James is he's got that room cooking right now. I'm excited to see some of these young gunners get on special teams, and see more Riley Pettijohn and some of these guys, because they are explosive. They're hungry. These kids all, I think, show up wanting to be 3-and-out kids and go to the league after 3 years, but they got to earn that. And good linebackers at Ohio State play special teams as freshmen, and they're impact guys. They're not just running down. And it's honestly harder now to make an impact on special teams than it ever has been, because we kick the ball at the end zone, thank God. And we also punt, we sky punt it. So there's not a lot of return action. There's not as many special teams demons anymore, because, again, if we do what we're trying to do, we just kick it out of the end zone every time, and then they get the ball on the 25 and let's go play defense. So, but I'm excited about this room. I think Sonny Styles is going to have a monster year. He's going to be the blocko, so he'll be wearing 0, and he'll be a captain, and he's got kind of the weight of the world on his shoulders, because this is a team that is kind of the inverse of last year, where last year we had like an ungodly amount of older leaders, and this year we don't have many at all. I mean, we've got Sonny, and in terms of guys, and again, like older guys can step up and be leaders, like Hayden Curry and Kenyatta and some of these guys, but in terms of guys that have been leaders that have played a lot, we don't have as much. It's not even close. So you don't have Jack JT and Cody and Lathan and Denzel, and we had a lot, Jordan Hancock. Those guys played a lot of football, and it's easy to lead when you've got a long, productive stat sheet behind your name. So, but great question, Dan. I appreciate you, my dude. I think our D line, and I think our D line they'll be fine. Again, there's always, every team is going to have a deficiency every year. And when we tell you guys not to worry, don't worry. Because last year, all I heard about was how bad our offensive line was going to be and how deficient they were going to be. And it turns out we had a first-round left tackle, Remington Award-winning center, and the deepest offensive line maybe in Ohio State history. and we won a national title. So don't worry, because everybody has a deficiency. I mean, Georgia's going after every defensive lineman in the portal. Texas, traditional powers that have had really strong defensive lines over the years, don't have deep defensive lines this year. So we're not alone in that boat. Nick Ma 71, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. Does this mean Jaden Davis is in for the same camp as Tate Martell? And Terrell Pryor and mediocre mechanics is way past that Underwood. What Underwood will do this year? I don't know. I think, does that mean that like Underwood is going to supplant Jaden Davis? I don't know. I thought Tate, obviously with Urban leaving, was just stuck in a situation where it wasn't his skill set. It was a lot like when Ryan Mallett was at Michigan. Ryan Mallett was a superstar quarterback, 5-star kid, went to Michigan to be a traditional pocket passer. And then Rich Rodriguez showed up, and Rich Rodriguez wanted to run the zone read, and Ryan Mallett ran like a 5.8 40, so it wasn't a fit. So he immediately transferred to Arkansas, and that makes sense. And that's kind of like with Tate. Like Tate was, Baker Mayfield 2.0, like spread the ball, run read option. And now he didn't run it like that, but it's kind of like, man, I mean, when you look at the scouting report on Tate, it was Johnny Manziel, and Johnny Manziel was, 6 foot and won the Heisman and ran all over team, used his feet, was quick. And, like when it's always funny when people bag on Tate Martell, I was like, he was the Gatorade National Player of the Year. And I don't think he ever lost a high school game, but now like with revisionist history, he sucked the whole time. But I mean, again, I can go read these scouting reports from back in the day where everyone's like, oh, he's not good. I was like, show me the scouting reports from when he committed here as the Gatorade National Player of the Year and a 5-star quarterback that said he was the worst player of all time. And again, I don't care about Tate Martell. I don't know Tate Martell. I have no relationship with Tate Martell. But it's just funny because now everybody like hates Tate Martell that was an Ohio State fan or covered it. And it's just like, okay, I guess. Like, I'm sure he cares. Like, I don't know why you do. But I don't know. Jaden Davis is weird. I didn't follow the Michigan spring at all. I didn't follow their quarterback competition at all. I know that they gave Underwood a ton of money, but he sucked in the spring game, which is, doesn't really mean anything to me. But what are your thoughts, Nevada? Does this mean that Jaden Davis is in the same camp as Tate Martell, and Terrell Pryor and his mediocre mechanics is way past what Underwood will do this year? Any thoughts on any of that?
I mean, Jaden Davis can't play. Underwood's fat. And yeah, I'll give you the hottest of hot take. Had Myers stayed at Ohio State, I think Tate Martell would have been a really good college quarterback. And that may be a steamer. We'll never know. It's one of those hypotheticals upon hypotheticals. But, I saw him play at Gorman, and Gorman played every big school in high school, and Tate absolutely destroyed him. He destroyed all these. His stats in high school were just obscene. And I think if he was in the right situation with that right headspace, which was playing for Urban Meyer in that spread. I don't know why he went to Miami. I'm sure it has to do with partying and hanging down in the lifestyle, everything having to do with nothing but nothing about college football. I think he kind of lost his way, and so I think he's kind of a convenient punchline. But I put him up there with kind of the Torrance Gibsons in terms of guys that could have been great, but it just didn't work out. But I mean, I'll always believe that Tate Martell could have been a good player because, like I said, I saw it. I saw him play over and over against Gorman, and they would play in a normal season. They'd play like 7 of the top 10 high school teams in the country, and they would just beat the dog's knot off every single one of them. And Tate was just like I said, he was Johnny Manziel. That's how people kind of described him coming to Ohio State, Johnny Manziel 2.0, and that's who he was. But didn't work out. So all we're left with is the memories of Tate and his 15 for 15 or 10 for 10 against Minnesota or whatever it was. But he would have been fun to watch. I can tell you that. That's for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, I think a lot of life, honestly, is timing and the right place, right time, right situation, and that's just kind of it. I mean, like, I look at just guys I've known, and I mean, Urban Meyer was a guy that hired Tom Herman, and how did he hire Tom Herman? Because Tom Herman begged Chip Kelly to go visit with him and learn his offense. So he learned the offense and did pretty good with it. And Iowa State happened to beat Oklahoma State, and then all of a sudden, Urban shows up. He wants Chad Morris from Clemson. Chad Morris gets a huge extension at Clemson to be their OC, to be the highest paid OC in the game. And Urban calls Chip and he says, "Hey, I need an OC. Who should I interview? You should interview Tom Herman. He's good." So Tom flies in, and we had Paul Petrino in, Bobby's brother. We had a bunch of different guys come in and interview, and Tom comes in, interviews, and Urban's intrigued and he hires him. So all of a sudden, like, he's working with Urban and puts in 3 years, and all of a sudden he's head coach at Houston. He's head coach at Texas within like 7 years of being at Ohio State. So again, timing is everything, and some of these kids that might have been great in Urban's system might not fit in Ryan Day's system, and some of the guys in Ryan's system probably wouldn't have been great in Urban's system. Like, I think Kyle McCord's going to end up being a second round pick, and he would have been terrible in Urban Meyer's offense, in my opinion. Now the last year when Ryan Day was running it and he had Dwayne Haskins throw for 50 touchdowns, maybe, but I don't know. But and Terrell, I don't, the thing about Underwood is you can't put him in the same universe as Terrell Pryor right now. He got to go do something. I mean, Terrell's probably the best athlete to ever play at Ohio State. I mean, and that's gaudy, but that's how athletic the dude was. So, and he carried that team on his back for multiple years. I was there for it. Trust me, there were games where I was like, I don't know how we won that, except for we just had the best player in the country on our team, and it was good. Brennan, Shelley, thanks for the 10. Hope you're good, brother. Who's the biggest underdog to look out for in fall camp? Ooh, that is a good one. I really want to say Jelani Thurman, even though he's kind of been on the radar, but I think Jelani could really, I think that they'll still have a kind of a meritocracy at tight end where you've got Will Kazmarek and Bennett Christian, and you're going to have this big rotation. But I really think Jelani's the second best tight end in that room behind Max Clare. He's physically the second best. And I think that Max Clare is a guy, and again, this is something that's really good that Ryan Day does a lot of, and Pantoni does a great job evaluating this, is that they bring in these guys that are, not only are they great kids, but they're professionals. So, Max Clare could be a first round pick in a year or two. He's that good. And so when Jelani watches him work and what he does and how he carries himself, it's a lot like Chris Carter, when the Vikings drafted Randy Moss, and he's following Chris Carter around, and Chris Carter's teaching him how to be a pro and teaching him the game and teaching him how to read coverages and teach him how to do whatever. And it's just, there's just different levels. It's like you bring in Caleb Downs, like, as expensive as it was to bring in Caleb Downs, he's probably worth 10 times what we're paying him because of his impact on all these young kids, these young DBs, guys on the defense. Frankly, even in the coaching search, I think that, Matt Patricia walked in and he's like, the first thing I wanted to do was find Caleb Downs. So, you pay for that guy, you get a lifetime, basically almost fully lifetime NFL guy, minus his first couple years at Syracuse, to come here because he's excited to coach Caleb Downs. Obviously we're paying him $3 million. That helps too. But, when you've got guys that are, exceptional, like a Max Clare, like Caleb Downs, it's good for these underdogs, for some of these guys that are kind of, they need to make a push. And so, Bo Jackson would be another one. I think Bo Jackson's going to have a big role on this team. I think that he's a guy that, he was very, very undervalued just because he missed a lot of his senior year because he's hurt. But I mean, he's tough, and Carlos Laughlin loves tough. So, Nevada, your thoughts? Who's the biggest underdog to look out for in fall camp this year?
Well, I'm going to go underdog, and I'm going to go Gabe Van Sickle. I mean, Gabe's a kid that's really doing some nice things on the offensive line, and I know the offensive line room is deep, and I know it's going to be hard to get playing time. But any kid that played line in Michigan and came to Ohio State is okay with me. And yeah, I like him a lot. But yeah, there's a lot of candidates for this. I mean, you could go to the wide receiver room and pick out in any one of two or three. Jelani's a great pick. Peyton Pierce, that we talked about earlier in the show. I mean, he's coming on like a hurricane for sure. So yeah, no, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun because this team is exactly, last year was a upside down pyramid with all the seniors and upperclassmen at the top, and this year you flip the pyramid around and it's very few upperclassmen, and Yeah, that's why I'm so excited about 2026. I mean, 2026. I know we don't try to get too far out on the depth chart, but just the idea of having Julian Sane back with JJ in his third year in college is kind of a terrifying thought, and I'm all about that. But yeah, no, this year lots of candidates, but I'm gonna go with Gabe because I just like that kid, and every time you see him, he's a big tough kid from a farming community out there in Michigan, and just hard nosed, man. I like those hard nosed offensive linemen like Burt Carton. It reminds me of you, like a young Burt Carton,
Uh,
young, cuddly, full of hope.
I mean, you just, because some of these kids, they show up and they're so soft, and guys like Gabe aren't soft; they're hard. And same with Jake Cook, because they're not like Jake had to come and he had to camp his senior year, and that's kind of at this point in the way recruiting is, like, that's kind of demeaning and humiliating that you're a senior and you still have to show up and get your offer. And there's other kids that are just out there walking around in sandals wearing their Ohio State stuff, and then Jake just happens to show up and be better than those guys and take their spot and outwork them. And again, I love kids like that because, again, some of these kids, it's a coronation and it's like, oh, I've arrived, and now I'm just, I jump. It's like they're on the monorail to the NFL, and then all of a sudden they realize that there's no monorail and they got to actually work. And some of these kids have been working way harder than they were. That's why, again, like some of these young linemen, they better get it in gear because they're bringing in two more portal tackles, two offensive tackles. The kid from West Virginia is from Pickerington, and then the other kid from Sam Houston State. I mean, they're bringing, because I mean that tells me, like, when you're on that third team at offensive tackle, you didn't cut the mustard this spring. So again, little hint, you might want to start working a little harder for some of these guys, because again, they're bringing in guys in your position. It's just like the NFL. Like in the NFL on Tuesdays, these called Transaction Tuesday. If they're bringing in a bunch of guys at your position group, that means they're probably going to cut you, or they're going to cut the guys at the bottom of the group because they're going to bring in a couple new guys because they don't think you're good enough. So that's, and again, this comes from a guy that got cut, lived it, and now I never expected to get cut when I got cut because it was never like on a Tuesday when they normally cut guys, but it was long, strange happenstance, but we're not going to get into that. But it'd be good. Heather Klinger, thanks for the deuce. What teams would be the best fit for Jack and JT? I think the Steelers would be an excellent fit for JT because of the front. They've run the odd defense forever. I think JT could be like a Tyson Alualu, and I know that's a lazy comparison because they're both, Samoan or whatever. But those are two big physical guys. I think JT's best position would be a 3-4 defensive end, where he could play defensive tackle if they go to sub package and plays 3 technique inside. I don't think he's a great edge rusher. And again, I think he's really speedy, great spin move, but I think him adding a little bit of weight and playing 3-4 defensive end is the best spot. I would have said New England back in the Belichick days when they had that odd front. I think that's JT's spot for Jack. I just think that he'd be a great fit in Detroit because of the head coach and because of the toughness. And, obviously Aiden Hutchinson is a superstar Pro Bowl level defensive end, but I think Jack would be obviously more workmanlike, and I think he could make a nice career up there. Again, I love the Detroit Lions, my favorite NFL organization. I played there. Great organization, great people, great area. Like anytime any of these guys go to Detroit, man, like Taylor Decker and Jonah Jackson, like I'm always thrilled for them because it is a great organization, and they're not all great. San Francisco is great too. There's some ones that are just absolutely excellent, and I think that'd probably be my pick. Nevada, knowing that the Browns never take Buckeyes outside of Denzel Ward, what are a couple of teams that would be best for Jack and JT?
I mean, for Jack, I'd like to see Jack become a Packer. I think he'd be perfect for the Packers, and you know, I like the way that he plays. I just like the way he approaches his versatility. I think he'd be great there. And for JT, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think he's got to be an odd front guy. So I'm thinking of the odd front teams. Is Seattle playing odd front now? Like, I, I, I want to
I
say they are.
They might be. I don't know,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. He just feels like a Pacific Northwestern kid going back home. I think that'd be a great story if he could get back there and play up there. That'd be kind of fun to see him be a Seahawk.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Nevada. I think we can about wrap this thing up. Great show tonight. Any final thoughts?
No, no, one of the best weeks of the year. You got NBA playoffs, you got
Yeah.
NHL playoffs, you got NFL drafts, and we got kids from the portal in a looming 5-star commitment. So, yeah, good times. I'm excited about it. I'm going to hunker down in front of my television set and just immerse myself in TV watching. But appreciate it, and we'll be back at it tomorrow night.
You know what legit is like one of my favorite rivalries in these playoffs right now is the
What's
Oilers
that?
and the Kings. Because
Oh, I know they hate each other.
they hate each other. It's like, oh
Yeah,
my god,
yeah.
they had a great series last year, and then they get matched up in round one again. So, and I love these games that come on at like 10:30 at night. So I'm like, oh, I get to watch this till like 1:30. This is amazing. So yeah, that'll be a war. I can't wait for that. So, all right, we're gonna wrap this thing up. As always, we appreciate you guys for being a part of our show. Hope you guys enjoyed it tonight. Great seeing all of you guys as always. If you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate you guys so very much for all that you guys do to help us grow this channel. If you want to do something amazing for us and huge for us to help us inspire to have our next meetup, just follow on Apple Podcasts. That is something we are growing. We thank all of you guys for doing it. Leave a 5-star review to combat the trolls that are leaving 1-star reviews. But again, appreciate you guys for all that you guys do. As always, thank you to all of our first responders, our military folk, our police officers. You guys be safe out there. Thank you for helping us out. And also, a quick memorial to Pope Francis. God rest his soul. He has gone on to heaven. And it'll be interesting to see who our next pope is as a young Catholic child. So again, I appreciate you guys so very much for all that you guys do. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. I'll see you guys tomorrow, 7:10. You guys have a great night. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.